The following is presented by the Cheeky Bastards.
Brace for impact, buckeroos, because your skulls are about to take a gargantuan blast of action-packed jackassery to the fucking ear holes. An audio explosion so mind-numbing extreme protective headwear should be mandatory to listen to this level of inane horseshit. So lock and load, buttercups, and prepare your tiny minds for your monthly assault of grade A action movie mayhem, filled with enough high-octane carnage, insane shootouts, and nose-busting fisticuffs that Michael Bay himself would weep like the little product placement bitch that he is. Now duck and cover my little cupcakes because it's time for the Men of Action podcast, a show packed with enough testosterone-filled bravado it could take down a small nation. So here are your hosts, those cheeky bastards themselves. From America, it's the notorious Scott K, and from England, it's the cynical Mr. Smith. They may be C-grade meat, but you can bet your ass they're packing some serious fucking heat. Shit's about to get explosive.
Heidi ho, you slack-jawed sons of bitches, and welcome to the Cheeky Bastards are the Men of Action podcast. I'm the notorious Scott K.
And from the UK, my name is Mr. Smith.
And we will be your cantankerous, opinionated hosts on this monthly action-filled quest, where this season we will be pitting two kick-ass action movie sequels up against one another in a no-holds-barred battle to the motherfucking death, to not only see which one truly reigns supreme, but if either of these motherfuckers is actually worth being a fucking sequel in the first place. Now on tap for you this month is a creature feature action sequel showdown of sorts, as 2012's Prometheus squares off against 2014's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. But before Steve Smith gets pregnant with an alien's child and I get bitch slapped around by a pack of apes, it is my pleasure to welcome in my curmudgeonly and pregnant co-host, Mr. Steve Smith.
Hello, Scott, and hello, everybody.
How is your unborn alien child gestating inside your belly right now? How's it going?
It's
Good?
kicking.
Got a little heartburn?
We don't know who the mother is.
A little tension in the chest?
We don't know who the mother is, but I'm pregnant, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, watching these two films kind of made me want to ask you a couple of questions. I think you and I grew up in the time of, and I don't want to say they were brainless action movies, because that's just not fair, but they were a bit brainless. They weren't exactly thinking man's action films that we grew up in. There were explosions, there was titties, there was catchphrases, there were men with more muscles than you should have on your body. It was a good time in the 80s.
Fun times.
And as young gentlemen, that is like, oof, that's peak testosterone. That is like we mainlined testosterone, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like on a regular basis. Yeah. But we've since moved, and when we think about these movies, because we have our ending where we try to decide who has the best this or the best that, and when you start to think about with these films, and we'll talk about them later, but the best action hero, and then the best action sequence, and it's like, okay, they are action movies, but the sequences have become more thought out. They're not just action for action's sake. Like, we don't just go, hey, let's have a couple cool lines, and then we're going to do a car chase that ends in an explosion, and, some more cool lines. It's like, let's think out when these action beats need to happen, and then when they happen, they're pretty spectacular. But there's more story. I feel like we're getting more story and less just full-on run butt naked into the wilderness with swords and just attack whatever, right? So how do you feel about this new kind of era? Now, don't get me wrong. We still get some stupid action films, and we still get the fun ones. I'm not saying we don't.
Yeah.
But I do feel we've definitely centered more on, even if you look at Dune, June. Sorry, I know you don't know what movie I'm talking about, but I don't say June. Movie June over there, came out right before July. But even in that movie, there's action, but it's really centered on the story, right? Like, so it's an action movie, but people look at it as more as a story-driven, like Lord of the Rings. Those are action movies, but they're thinking man's movies. Like, they're movies with action in them. How do you feel about this new?
I think the 80s get a bad rap now. Like, people talk about the dumb Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff, and as we've discussed with Sean about Bruce Willis and how Bruce came in and changed the game on all that with Die Hard, which wasn't quite so dumb, but got dumber progressively. I think that's fair to say.
It's very fair to say.
But yeah, I think it's just, like I said, 80s get a bad rap now, but if you were a child of the 80s, I mean, I was born in the 70s, but I was,
I know what you mean. So was I.
I was a child of the 80s.
I grew up in the 80s, yes.
Yeah, I grew up in the 80s. And, all these movies from the top tier, which they were top tier at the time, the Schwarzeneggers, the Stallones, you know, and then obviously you got your kind of Van Dammes and your Seagals and everyone else. You know, they were new. You know, they were coming off. You know, you're coming off the 70s where, you know, you had more of a thriller vibe. Yeah, with, you know, Clint Eastwood, etc. But I think people are a bit harsh on the 80s stuff because they paved the way. These films paved the way for what we've got now, and I think that's why there's a thrill to certain things like John Wick, where, you know, they are kind of a throwback in a way because they've got more action.
It's just action for action's sake for the most part.
It's action for action's sake, but the action is just so well choreographed and put together that, like we said, John Wick 4 was just relentless.
Some of the best action we've ever seen. That overhead shot.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think much of the film, but I was seeing action that I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
So we did have, you know, I mean, if I watched Raw Deal quite recently, and that is a victim of that, where this is pretty mediocre, boring movie. Quick, throw Schwarzenegger a shotgun and have him shoot up a place and play Rolling Stones over the top of it because.
What the fuck? Why not? Hey,
and why not? You know,
and get some cocaine while we're shooting the film, please.
Yeah, you are watching the thing, and you know what? This is pretty bad, but you're still there for it. You know, obviously we've got the nostalgia side of it too. But no, I think
But there are still some good ones. We put them in our top 100.
Oh yeah, exactly. No,
some of John McTiernan's, like you said, we got Die Hard, we got Predator. Look, Cobra isn't the greatest, but it was still a damn fine film. We got Rambo, the original, it's fantastic. Rambo 2, I really enjoy. Like, we still got some good stuff, but unfortunately, a lot of times we got a lot of piggybacking off of just, hey, let's just do this for this sake, and then be like, who gives a shit, you know? I mean, we're still getting it today. We're still getting that today. Just, I don't think we get as many superstars doing the old, fuck, like you said, Raw Deal. Hey, Schwarzenegger is a fucking gun.
Well, I think
say this catchphrase.
You've got a sophistication now, haven't you, where, I don't know, if they're just more aware now, whether they care more now, that actually, when there's no action, we need an actual film to be taking place. Whereas back in the day, it was like, we've got to do this talky shit, let it run, and then when the action comes, everyone will get.
They'll forget about what was just said. They don't even care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's time for the Cheeky Bastards monthly movie or show recommendations.
Damn, Jimmy, this some serious gourmet shit.
What we're going to unwrap for you here in October for Halloween's, all right, is our second recommendations of Season 3. And I'm going to kick it off here with mine. Coming to you from 2024, Strange Darling. Nothing is what it seems when a twisted one-night stand spirals into a serial killer's vicious murder spree. Strange Darling is a pulp-infused cinematic ride with more twists and turns than a theme park roller coaster. It's a visceral, heart-pounding cinematic experience whose non-linear storytelling harkens to the likes of Tarantino and Fincher, as director J.T. Molnar takes us on an unparalleled journey through a cat-and-mouse tale so intricately woven that every twist feels like the snap of a tightly coiled spring. The cinematography by turned cinematographer Giovanni Ribisi is absolutely jaw-dropping, turning every scene into a work of art with its sprawling landscapes and intimate close-ups that blur the line between the sublime and the sinister, creating an atmosphere that you can almost touch, taste, and breathe. The film is highlighted by the breakout performances of its leads, Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Garner, who deliver career-defining portrayals, making every glance, every word, and every silence simmer with a tension so palpable, it feels like it could tear the screen apart. The film's pacing is flawless, ruthless yet hypnotic. One moment you're teetering on the edge of your seat, your pulse racing with anticipation, and the next you're submerged in quiet, reflective scenes that haunt you as the filmmakers blur the lines of society's gender stereotypes, forcing us to confront our own preconceived notions of them. While Strange Darling is a film with heavy Tarantino vibes, it is also a cinematic work of art that has forged its own identity that I feel has set a new gold standard for modern thrillers. What kept it from being a modern masterpiece, in my opinion, is its ending. Now, the film does stick the landing on it, but it's a very wobbly one at that. And maybe after a few more viewings, I'll feel, while it's not the ending I wanted, it's the ending we deserved. But that small nitpick aside, this is a truly remarkable piece of independent cinema that has renewed my faith, along with some other films over the past couple of years, that a cinematic renaissance, like we had in the 90s, might be on our horizon. And that is my recommendation for you here in October of 2024.
This is Certified Gourmet.
Mr. Smith, what are you going to grace us? What candy are we unwrapping for the listeners for episode 26 here in October 2024?
Okay, well, this is from this year, but it's I'm a bit late to the party. But I've been holding on to this one because I was hoping you'd see it first, or when I did. This is Arcadian, directed by Benjamin Brewer from 2024. Now, in the near future, when normal life is decimated, Paul and his two sons, Thomas and Joseph, have been living a half-life, tranquility by day and torment by night. Every night after the sun sets, they face the unrelenting attacks of a mysterious and violent evil. When Thomas doesn't return before nightfall, Paul must leave the safety of their fortified farm to find him. A nightmarish battle ensues and forces the family to execute a desperate plan to survive. Now, when I first saw the trailer for this one, it seemed like it was riffing on A Quiet Place a bit too much. But after seeing it, in my opinion, it's the best Nicolas Cage movie since Pig.
Ooh, high praise, sir.
Yes, well, look, Cage is only in maybe 30% of the movie, but he's as committed as ever and giving a subtle and heartfelt performance. The two brothers are also great. Thomas, played by Maxwell Jenkins, is the more aggressive risk taker, and Joseph, played by Jaden Martell, is the more thoughtful intellectual. They have their differences, but when the shit hits the fan, and it does, they band together for the film's exciting finale. Director Benjamin Brewer, probably due to budgetary restraints, takes the less is more approach with the monsters, but when he lets them loose to strut their stuff and get funky, it's bloody, it's frightening, and it's freaky as hell. Now, this is, to me, feels like it just came and went.
It did.
Not much
I had him say maybe a week. That's why when you said you saw, I was like, motherfucker.
I think you're right. Yeah. This is just a solid rental. This not a fantastic movie. It's not something I think I'd add to my physical media collection, which is how I tend to judge things. Would I buy it? Mm-hmm. Some films are just an okay watch. Some films are like, they belong in my collection. This is in the middle there. This is operating on a high level, but I just don't think that's quite great enough. But it's really a good watch. It's like a smart sci-fi horror movie. Mm-hmm. But then the monsters in it just freaked me the fuck out when I saw them, and their actions, the way they move. Yeah. It's a unique experience, really. In the end, not the Quiet Place alike that I thought it was, mm-hmm. but I think it's definitely worth a watch, and I think you're going to like this one a lot.
This is Certified Gourmet.
Quite a thing to have from Mr. Nicolas Cage over the past couple of years, huh? He has really turned that fucking ship around. And now you folks need to turn your fucking ships around and put your eyes on Strange Darling and Arcadian, both from 2024. And once again, I think it's leaning towards what we were saying. I think we've got some decent films coming out here.
Oh, definitely.
I think we're starting to pull our way out of this MCU overload, but we'll talk about it. But folks, hold on here. Let's, as the wolf says, let's not start sucking each other's dick quite yet. Because it is time for us to tell you about some motherfucking movies you need to stay the fuck away from.
This is some serious horse shit.
Horse shit.
Horse shit. Horse shit.
And this is horse shit.
Horse shit. Horse shit.
It's horse shit. Horse shit. Horse shit. Horse shit. Yes.
Mine also comes from 2024, and it's disappointing, but I think there's a lot of things that happen that we won't discuss too much. You can read about it. But for me, fucking Borderlands. Returning to her home planet Pandora, an infamous bounty hunter forms an unexpected alliance with a ragtag team of misfits. Together, they battle alien monsters and dangerous bandits to uncover one of Pandora's most explosive secrets. That being that this film is a hot mound of donkey diarrhea. Just when I thought Eli Roth was hitting his fucking stride with last fall's amazing holiday-themed slasher Thanksgiving, He goes and butt fucks the turkey with Borderlands, a barren, lifeless expanse of cinematic horseshit. The film is a soulless, joyless slog that somehow managed to be both visually dull and offensively loud. The characters are as flat as the game's desolate landscapes, and their performances are as fucking empty as the film's plot. Why does Hollywood continue to try and force feed us Kevin Hart down our fucking throats in an attempt to convince us that he's the new Eddie Murphy? Well, congrats, you midget bitch. This is your Pluto Nash. What should have been a riotous, over-the-top adventure is instead a tedious, incoherent shit sandwich. The movie's amateurish attempts at humor are as subtle as a sledgehammer to the face, while the action sequences are about as exciting as watching a constipated turtle take a shit. Borderlands is a catastrophic misfire that insults both the source material and the audience's fucking intelligence. Stay the fuck away from this runny turd burger.
This is certified horseshit.
On a small note afterwards, having seen it and talking to my good friend Sean, Eli Roth was not happy with this was supposed to go. He was trying to do a rated R, but somehow contractually his name stays on the film. He may not have finished the whole film. So I may give Mr. Roth a pass. He may have had a better vision, and the studio had to, they know everything, once again stuck their tiny little dicks into this thing and print whole fuck the thing out of this thing. So regardless, whether it's his fault or not, do not waste your time and stop going to see Kevin Hart films. Please. He's a funny comedian, but he's not Eddie Murphy. He's never going to be Eddie Murphy. He should just stick with the Jumanji roles and leave us the fuck alone. I'm tired of seeing his short face, all right? So there you go. Mr. Smith, what horse shit filled sandwich with peanuts that are 7 months old are you telling us to stay away from this month?
Okay, well, here we go. From 1992, directed by David Fincher.
Oh, there's a tie-in. We got a tie-in, folks.
Folks, I'm talking about Alien 3. Now, set immediately after the events of James Cameron's Aliens. The story begins with an ejected pod from the colonial marine spaceship Sulaco crash landing on a planet housing a penal colony populated by violent male inmates, killing everyone aboard except Lieutenant Ellen Ripley. Once again played by Sigourney Weaver. Unknown to Ripley, an alien egg was aboard the ship. It is born in the prison and begins a killing spree. Now, much like Borderlands, by now, I'm sure we're all aware of what a troubled production this was. And I bet David Fincher is secretly thankful for all the studio interference because it gave him someone to blame. From the overly solemn plot, the cast of hammy British TV actors, some pretty awful creature effects, and maybe one of the worst finales in cinematic history, this was never going to work. By the time Lance Henriksen shows up, I wanted to throw myself over the railings and into a pool of lava with Sigourney Weaver, as it would have been a far less painful experience. In an interview with The Guardian in 2009, David Fincher was asked about Alien 3 and is quoted as saying, "No one hated it more than me. To this day, no one hates it more than me." So I watched...
It's on the director's cut video just out now.
That's on... Yeah. Well, as we're talking Prometheus today, I felt I'd go back and watch all of the Alien movies. And this is by far the worst for me. I mean, this was a slog. To think that the guy who's given us some absolute masterpieces made this, it just goes to show how much he got fucked over by the studio.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you start making a film with no script, there's a lot of stuff I could have gone into, but this isn't the movie up for discussion this month. So this is,
no, thankfully.
I never liked Alien 3, but I didn't quite realise
how much
what a shit show it was. It's a real... You may like Aliens more than Alien. You may like Alien more than Aliens. But to go from either of those two to this is a massive drop. If you're going to do what I did and think, hey, I'll watch all the Alien movies, you know what? You could flick through your phone while you're watching this one, and you'll still be dissatisfied. So there you go. That's my choice for this month.
This is certified horseshit.
There you go, you slag John sons of bitches. Do not waste your fucking time seeing Borderlands or Alien Tree, as we call it over here. All right, and now it is time for us to light the fucking fires and kick those motherfucking tires on our main event.
And Now the moment you've all been waiting for, our Creature Sequel Showdown main event. In the red corner is the 2012 sci-fi horror action film Prometheus, and in the blue corner is the 2014 sci-fi action film Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So get ready for a no-holds-barred, head-to-head collision of two creature feature sequel stalwarts. 2 movies enter, only 1 movie leaves. It's time for the Men of Action movie face-off.
Let's get ready to rumble!
This season, we'll be taking a look at some of the facts and figures behind each of the franchises represented here today. Up first is the aforementioned Alien franchise. Now to date, the Alien franchise has 7 installments with a TV series from Noah Hawley entitled Alien Earth, debuting on FX in 2025, which I'm very excited about, to be honest with you.
Me too.
Alien was created by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Sussett. The first Alien came out in 1979. Aliens followed up in 86. Steve's favorite, Alien 3, came out in 92. Alien Resurrection was 1997. We went 15 years before we see another one, which is today's discussion about Prometheus, came out in 2012, followed up by Alien Covenant in 2017. And then this year, we had a new release of Alien Romulus. Now, this franchise has had a total of 5 directors, with Mr. Ridley Scott directing 3 of them, those being Alien, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant. The 7 Alien films to date have been made on a total budget of $480.5 million and have grossed at the worldwide box office $1.6 billion. Prometheus is the highest grossing film of the franchise so far, with a $403.4 million box office return, while the original still holds the highest IMDb rating with an 8.5. Now up next is the Planet of the Apes reboot franchise. To date, the new Planet of the Apes franchise has 4 installments. It is based on Pierre Boulier's Planet of the Apes. Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out in 2011, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in 2014, War for the Planet of the Apes in 2017, and once again this year, we had another Apes with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in 2024. The series has had 3 directors, with Matt Reeves helming 2 of the 4, those being Dawn and War. The 4 new Ape films have been made on a total budget of $678 million, far surpassing Alien with 7 films, and they have a worldwide box office of a staggering $2.1 billion. Now, Dawn, which we'll be talking about today, is the highest grossing film of the franchise with $710.6 million at the box office, and it is tied with Rise for the best IMDb rating with a 7.6. So there's our facts and figures on the 2 franchises, being Alien and the Planet of the Apes reboot. Now, up first in the red corner is from 2012, Prometheus.
It's time for the tale of the tape. Prometheus was released in 2012, written by John Spates and Damon Lindelof, and directed by Ridley Scott, starring Noomi Rapace, Michael Fassbender, Guy Pearce, Idris Elba, Charlize Theron, Logan Marshall Green, Sean Harris, Ray Spall, Benedict Wong, and Patrick Wilson. Made on a budget of $130 million and grossing $403.4 million at the box office. It holds a 7 rating on IMDb, with a 73 critics and 68 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. On Letterboxd, Steve gives us 2 stars, while Scott gives us 3.5 stars. Following clues to the origin of mankind, a team finds a structure on a distant moon, but they soon realize they are not alone in 20th Century Fox's Prometheus.
King has his reign. And then he dies. It's inevitable.
Prometheus has landed. These are ancient civilizations that were separated by centuries, and yet this same pictogram was discovered in every one of them. You're smiling.
I think they want us to come and find them.
We're all here because of a map you 2 kids found in a cave.
Not a map. An invitation.
From whom?
Please tell me you can read that.
Prometheus, are you seeing this?
Whatever that probe is picking up, it's reading life form.
What do you mean a life form?
Oh, the head. They're changing.
Changing into what?
It's moving? These things moving?
What is that?
There's a ship. They're leaving.
To go where?
Earth.
We were so wrong. Take us home! If you don't stop it, there won't be any home to go back to.
Why is that door open? Got it up! Got it up!
Big things have small beginnings.
Mr. fucking Smith, you are the man who's got all. We've got it right this time, folks. We know what we're talking about this time. Got ourselves situated from a couple months back. We had a bit of a kerfuffle, but we are good to go now. Mr. Smith, why don't you give us a little behind the scenes on this fantastic film? Technically a prequel, but look, we're going to say it's a sequel. It was made afterwards, so technically, you know what I'm saying? Oh, hey, it's our fucking show. Add us if you like, but we're going to do what we want to do. So, Prometheus, tell us all about the backstory to this lovely film.
Okay, so development Prometheus was in progress by 2002. Ridley Scott wanted to pursue a sequel that would explore the engineered origins of the series, alien creatures, and the space jockey, the extraterrestrial being who briefly appears in Alien, as the deceased pilot of a derelict spaceship. Aliens director James Cameron discussed the potential for a sequel with Scott and began working on a story for the film. However, the studio, Fox, decided instead to pursue a crossover of Alien and Predator. What could go wrong?
Which you will have noticed I left out because I don't consider them a part of the franchise. Fuck those films. Sorry.
Well, immediately Cameron stopped working on his own project, believing that the crossover would kill the validity of the franchise. Now, it was initially reported that the film would be called Paradise, named after John Milton's poem, Paradise Lost, which I know Scott is a big fan of.
Huge.
But Ridley Scott considered that this would convey too much information about the film. It was actually Fox CEO Thomas Rothman, big fan of his work, who suggested the title Prometheus. Scott stated that while Alien was indeed the jumping off point for the project, out of the creative process involved a new grand mythology and universe in which this original story takes place. The keen fan will recognize strands of Alien's DNA, so to speak. The ideas tackled in this film are unique, large, and provocative, says Mr. Scott. Now, Scott was initially requesting a $250 million budget for what he considered to be an adult-orientated project, but Fox was reluctant to invest this amount of money and wanted to ensure the film would receive a lower age rating to broaden potential audience. Scott said the question is, do you go for the PG-13 or do you go for what it should be, which is rated R? Financially, it makes quite a difference. Essentially, it's kind of R. It's not just about blood. It's about ideas that are very stressful. Scott also said that regardless of rating, he would present the most aggressive cut of the film that he could. On May the 7th, 2012, Fox confirmed that the film had received an R rating and would be released without any cuts being made. And when it came to the special effects, Scott said, you can pretty much do anything you want with digital technology. And Doug Trumbull once said to me, if you can do it live, do it live. Now, that was 29 years ago. Even though we have remarkable digital capabilities, I still say do it live. It's cheaper. Well, Scott was right, because after cinematographer Darius Wolski convinced Scott it would be possible to film in 3D with the same ease and efficiency of 2D filming, according to Scott, the decision to film in 3D added $10 million to the film's budget. Speaking of budget, Prometheus took over $400 million at the global box office, off of a $130 million budget, has a 73% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, who say Ridley Scott's ambitious quasi-prequel to Alien may not answer all of its big questions, but it's redeemed by its haunting visual grandeur and compelling performances. The Guardian's Peter Bradshaw wrote that Prometheus was more grand, more elaborate, but less interesting than Alien, and lacked the latter's central killer punch. Cheeky Bastards homeboy Roger Ebert gave the film 4 stars out of 4, labeling it a seamless blend of story, special effects, and pitch-perfect casting, filmed in sane, effective 3D that doesn't distract. Ebert wrote that Noomi Rapace's performance continues here the tradition of awesome feminine strength begun by Sigourney Weaver in Alien, but considered that Idris Elba's Janek was the most interesting character evolution. Ebert thought that the plot raises questions and does not answer them, which made the film intriguing and parallel to the classic tradition of Golden Age sci-fi. He later went on to name it one of the best films of 2012. And finally, egotistical cocksucker James Cameron is quoted as saying, I enjoyed Prometheus. I thought it was great. I thought it was Ridley Scott returning to science fiction with gusto, with great tactical performance, beautiful photography, great native 3D. There may have been a few things that I would have done differently, but that's not the point.
Like add in some blue cat fuckers.
Yeah, you fuck yourself.
Some blue alien fuckers look like cats.
You could say that about any movie. However, despite his praise, he also said he thought it didn't add up logically. So, it's one of those movies where I think, Ridley Scott had all the pieces in place, which, clearly worked out. And really, not a lot of behind-the-scenes turmoil in this one. As I get the feeling from what I've read that the acting was kind of like 30% of the movie. Once it wheeled the actors out, they then spent the rest of the time with the visual effects, of which there are many.
And I think they hold up 12 years later. I rewatched it. I think we both watched it yesterday. I rewatched it yesterday. Yeah. There was a different movie we had slotted in here, and we won't talk about that movie. We moved it out. We didn't think it represented properly up against Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And I feel this movie actually did fill that void better. I feel like this is a much more suited for each other.
Yeah, definitely.
Similar-ish stories talking about the end of mankind due to a foreign monster created by mankind in and of itself. So a similar vein in our story. I saw this movie in the theaters. I remember being, everyone being really excited about it. Look, like you said, Alien 3 and then Alien Resurrection, and then you had the AVPs. Like, Alien had fallen. Like, everyone's like, oh, is this coming back? I appreciate the fact of this prequel because also being a Star Wars fan, look, we had the prequels from George, and the first one came out the gate really slow and cumbersome, and we had an annoying character in Jar Jar Binks, and you're kind of like, holy fuck, Jesus. I didn't feel this way for this one, and I may not have seen this in a decade or so. So I really enjoyed watching it last night. I really do like this film. I think it was a great look. I think some of the problems we have, and I'll let you, make your own statement on it, but I think sometimes people our age especially, we hold on to certain things in properties, right? So it's why maybe Furiosa hasn't done so well. It's like you hold on to something that's not going to be anymore. And once again, we've got the person who originated it directing it, which always helps. It always helps when the original visionist helps it. Look, I give as much as James Cameron's a dickhead and a douchebag. Aliens is fucking great. And as you said, Aliens is my favorite. Now, in fairness, I saw Aliens first before I saw Alien. Alien came out in 79. I'm 4 years old. I'm not seeing Alien. My parents aren't showing me
You mean you weren't
Alien.
watching intelligent sci-fi when you were 4?
My dad was like, here's E.T., next up Alien. Here we go, kids. We're going to show you a little different side. You won't be so heartfelt about this one.
Traumatized you for life.
Yeah. So, Aliens comes out, 86? So I'm 11. I'm at the age, right? I'm at the fucking age, right? This is, and you got the Marines. So for me, game over, man. Game over. For me, I was like, I'm in. This is the stuff.
To hell, man. Going down.
Now, I do love Alien. I went and saw it this year because on Alien Day, they brought it back out in theaters, and they kind of have this pre-thing where Ridley was there with Fetty, and they were talking about Alien Romulus. So they were kind of talking about the two of them. So, I love Alien. It's a fucking spectacular film. But I'm a fan of Aliens just because I like the action. I like there was more aliens. I like the Queen. Ridley's a real badass in it, So for me, it spoke my language at the time I saw it. But as also a horror fan, I totally love Alien because that is a fucking horror movie. So this movie, I think from my opinion, makes this movie sing is its acting, right? But I think a lot of times we're just holding on to this hope that, oh, like people are complaining about Alien Romulus being a fan service. Like, what does everyone expect these days? Like, I'm kind of confused as what everyone is expecting in films nowadays. Like, hey, here's another property coming out from Alien. Oh, it's fan service. You either enjoy it or you don't enjoy it. Like you said it once, you responded to one of our listeners who's listening now, Jeff, some about he had expectations. And you said that's not the movie's fault, that you came in with expectations. And I feel like that's right. Like I went in last night going, you know what? Forget what I remember of it. No expectations. Just going to sit down, rewatch this movie, and just based on its validity, do I feel like it's a strong story?
Yeah, well also, I think fan service, we need to perhaps get rid of the connotation that that's bad.
Agreed.
Because we're
looking for it. We do.
Maybe you don't like the film, yeah? And you're using fan service. There's films we love that's got fan service. So don't use it as a crutch to rely on because you can't articulate what it was you didn't like about
exactly.
it. Because there's probably 20 movies out there that you love precisely because of their fan service.
Yes, some movies are just made for fan service.
Yeah, and so I hadn't seen Prometheus in a long time either. Alien I love the most. I've got 2 older brothers, okay? So when I was very young, I was probably watching things I shouldn't have.
Well, we're children of the 80s. We all watch things we shouldn't have. That's why we're the psychos we are now.
But what I'm saying is I wouldn't have had the opportunity to see Alien otherwise. So, you know, it's not like I was somehow on a different level to everyone else my age. I'm just saying that my brothers brought these films home. I can remember seeing the chest burster in Alien and probably having a major effect on me also, perhaps more than it did the adults. Because, you know, I'm watching fucking kid stuff,
You're innocent. You're like, wait a minute, things can come punching out of our chests?
When's this going to happen?
That's not on Sesame Street. I don't see Big Bird talking about this shit.
Exactly, you know, so... but Prometheus, there are things about it that I don't appreciate. I really don't like the Guy Pearce character. I don't think the makeup effects are very good on him.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, not to go into Dawn, but you can create a character from pixels that is heartbreaking. Yet you shove a fucking condom over Guy Pearce's head and we're expected to believe he's 250 years old.
Listen, that was a good condom.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, sometimes with filmmakers, I'm like, and I would also say that about Romulus with Ian Holmes' character, where they've digitized.
I know.
I'm just like, look, I can tell this isn't done very well. You must have fucking known. And you just didn't give a fuck. So that's unforgivable. But anyway, that's another film. That's another thing. But in this, I'm just like, why didn't you just get an old man to play Wayland?
Yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention was that Charlize Theron was actually supposed to play Noomi Rapace's character. They didn't say anything about who would have played Charlize Theron's character had that happened. But, you know, Noomi Rapace is pretty great in this. You know, you've got a great cast. You have got a good cast in this.
Well, he's smart. He keeps her a scientist. He keeps her along the lines of what Sigourney's character originally was, right? Like, she's just a scientist. She turns into a badass throughout the Aliens film. And
she makes badass decisions.
Yes.
She doesn't suddenly turn into Superman.
Exactly. And Miss Rapace in this, like the scene of the surgery, she has some cool things happen to her that don't necessarily turn her into, like you said, a badass. She's still a scientist. She's making some decisions and realizing that her decisions were bad to go there in the first place and realizing, oh shit, this was bad. But she doesn't suddenly like pick up the machine gun and she doesn't turn into, which I appreciated. I know that the movie that everyone is hoping is, this is the prequel to Aliens. So they want to see a lot of aliens. And I get that we don't get to see a lot of it. And I think that's, in my opinion, I thought it was smart. But again, others might not like it. And maybe why people may not like the film. I felt like this was Ridley Scott making his own version of 2001. I felt this was way more Kubrick. David, I mean, we took, what's the eye look like? Well, let's turn him into David. And my God, Michael Fassbender is fucking amazing in these films. And then in the Covenant one that we aren't talking about, but when he gets to play both characters.
Well, apparently, another little tidbit, Ridley Scott couldn't afford Michael Fassbender, but basically said, there's no movie about him. So we need to figure this out.
So when we get into our thing later, I was like, I think Fassbender's the star, and is he an action hero? Because he's a creepy fucking guy. And God, I love Fassbender.
It just toys with conventions, doesn't it? It kind of like...
I mean, he's watching Lawrence of Arabia, starts brushing his hair. Like, it's so fucking amazing. Like, he's turning into that character. He's like...
But you're absolutely right. I thought exactly the same thing with the 2001 thing. And I think when you talk about the cesarean scene, that was so intense.
Oh my God, it was. He was like, okay, how do I do a chest popper without doing a chest popper? Like how do I do this and bring up the level? And that was it. And then she's trying to slide out underneath it.
Well, at this point in his life, Ridley Scott is just a far more
to use your word from earlier, sophisticated director.
Yeah, he's clearly trying to elevate things and not do what he's done before. But at the same time, he knows what people want.
But he doesn't want to give them all of it.
Yeah, and he's going to give people things just in a different way. He's asking us to be more sophisticated too.
Yeah. I mean, technically, this movie comes out, and the 70 years from now is when this stuff takes place. 2094 is when this starts. I'll be dead, thankfully. But in 7 years from now, if I'm 120, I'm like, God damn it, I'm Wayland.
I know what's coming. I wouldn't be here. So
I will. The funny thing is, I looked at Wayland, I go, motherfucker, that'd be me if I made it to 120.
I don't want to be
like
120.
Son of a bitch.
I don't want to be 120. Look, life is what it is.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, we've got a great cast. Yeah, I think the world he's exploring, he's seeing this as probably, he probably had questions himself and is working it out in this script. Not that he wrote it, but he's clearly behind. This is his vision, and it's huge. And the technology, much like something like Minority Report, where you're going to see these things. They're doing these things now.
Yeah. The little pups, or fuck, that was cool.
Like
shit.
And all the in Minority Report when you got all the screens, wiping the screens and all that shit. That was this is all stuff that was coming, and so Ridley Scott is a master. This guy is a master.
I really enjoyed this film this time around. It's been 12 years, so
Well, on my ratings on Letterboxd, what I tend to do with franchises especially is I'm not pitting you against every other film. I'm pitting you against each other.
Okay. Fair.
That's what I tend to do. So people may look at my ratings and be like, "Damn, I don't get that." That sort of goes against what you're saying. Seems like you enjoyed it a lot less. No, I'm comparing it to every other one, and I'm going to enjoy one. I'm going to enjoy one more than the other. That doesn't mean it still isn't smart or it doesn't do something I really like. I mean, because as you pointed out about Rapace's character is like, even with Charlize Theron,
she's good in that too.
They're on the run. They're running. They're not somersaulting through the air with machine guns, blowing their heads off aliens. In Aliens, when when Ripley picks up the gun, well, she's had experience with these Marines by now.
Yes.
So it's easier to swallow.
Yes.
That makes sense. And it's still very much her. She comes to the rescue like she did in the first, but just in a different way. And because we're in a different genre now, which Aliens is a different genre to Alien. It just is. It's an action movie.
Yes, it is, absolutely.
Cameron was smart enough to know he wasn't going to match Alien.
And look, like I said, I give him credit.
I do too.
That may be one of my favorites of his movies. I know Terminator is a great film, but I really love Aliens. What he did with Aliens is he elevated the proceedings, you like to say. He elevated it.
Yeah. So with this, you've got Fassbender, Elba, you've got Charlize Theron, you've got Guy Pearce. You've got a great cast.
Great cast.
And I just tend to think with stuff like this, look, great writing is gonna attract a great cast, and you get it.
This comes down to, if you went to see this movie and you haven't seen the other Aliens, then you are in the same boat as the characters. You don't know what's going on. But what makes this movie exciting, it's like when you go to a zombie film and you're ahead of the characters. We're ahead of the characters. We know what those fucking pots are. We know what's coming. And he changes it up. He does an evolution of it. Like the creature itself has evolved. Like this is the early stages of the alien, of the xenomorph and the face huggers. And it's like, as over time, it's been refined by even Wayland's people to become an even more efficient killer, which if you see Romulus is one of the things it talks about.
Exactly.
It kind of is refined. And I love that this is ground zero for it. We don't need to see the alien until the end like we do. I think that's the smartest part.
Yeah, because I read that Ridley Scott said that the alien in Prometheus is a more primitive version of the alien we see in Alien, which is set like 100 odd years later. So he brings that into it as well. So all in all, I mean, it's a fascinating watch. And, I guess I can imagine a lot of people watching it at first thinking, I don't get what this has got to do with Alien.
Yes.
And like you said, I think he's very smart that I mean, at the end of Prometheus, it's almost like a post-credit sequence that you get in a Marvel movie where, do you know what I mean? When you actually see the alien at the very end. It's literally the last thing you see in the movie.
Yeah. And then it leads for Covenant, which I enjoy Covenant as well, you know.
Yeah, I do too. In other hands, maybe not, but when you're in the hands of a master, you're going to get the best of it.
And this, much like we said with 2001, this is his statement really on AI. This movie is not about the perceived threat of the aliens or the engineers. It's about the perceived threat of David. David is the threat.
Yeah.
He is Hal. David is the threat in the film.
Well, he in fact...
Because he uses this just like, if you see Romulus, just like all of the synthetics, except for Henriksen, he infects, but intentionally. The reason they're going there is for all of this. This is all, I mean, look, rich people with spaceships, always looking for weapons. That's the human nature, which is why the engineers are coming back. They were like, we tried this thing with humanity on Earth, and it has failed miserably. We're going to go back there and destroy it and try these new creatures and see what that happens, how that works out for it. So, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. When you go into it with zero expectations, which, like, look, honestly, when 2012 went to see it, of course there's expectations. Ridley Scott's return to the Alien franchise. We've had Alien 3 and we've had Resurrection. They have some merits, some parts of it, you know, like the Alien 3, the thought of an alien running around in a prison has a real cool idea to it. Imagine if they let David Fincher fucking just do the movie he wanted to do. What we could have gotten from that. We've seen what Fincher's capable of, but that didn't happen. Resurrection has a fun little cast in it again. We get to have this weird...
I much prefer Resurrection, but the director of that made a film, City of Lost Children, which I absolutely love, and that's got that very bizarre European vibe to it that he brought to it, which is why they went to him in the first place, obviously.
Well, the fun is there's an Easter egg for that film in the beginning of this film with David riding around the bike, throwing the basketball into... He's like, well, how do I outdo Ripley walking away, throwing it over her head?
There's all them little touches. But, you know, David, he infects Charlie.
Yep, because he knows he's going to have sex with he's the threat. Look, David's the threat. It's fantastic what Michael Fassbender does. God damn, if they... Look, I'm never getting a synthetic robot named looking like David, looking like Michael Fassbender. Hell no. The fact that he's blonde-haired, blue eyes, like there's so much that Ripley is playing with.
I'm still hanging in for a Charlize Theron bot. That's what I'm hanging in for. That's a whole nother episode.
Now, in fairness, unfortunately, Idris Elba was not the star he currently is now. I mean, he was a star, but he, he's coming from The Wire. Like he's a TV star at the moment back in 2012. Yeah. He would have had a bigger role in this film otherwise, but plays a great captain. There's a lot to love about this film. There's just a lot to love about this film. I really do enjoy it, and I liked going into it, like what we did with June, the original, when in season 1, we gave it some reappraisal. Yeah. I hadn't seen this in quite some time. I went in going, leave all baggage at home. Watch this on the merits of the film. And it was the rewatch that I go, holy shit. Maybe the reason people don't like it is because they're expecting aliens. He's tapping into it's like when Tarantino did, I know everyone hates me saying that, but The Hateful Eight. He wanted to do his own interpretation of The Thing. He wanted to talk about The Thing. Like it's his way of figuring out the movie The Thing. This movie was his way of figuring out Hal and 2001: A Space Odyssey. What if I go further? What if we're past the 2001 people? What if we're now in the future? What has Hal become now that we've put it in? How dangerous is AI? This is 12 years prior to us now having AI. What is that going to look like if we have these synthetic, non-feeling people? And I thought David was great. David terrified me more this time around because when you go see it, you're waiting for the alien to pop up, right? Like you're waiting. That's the threat. The threat's not the alien. Yeah. The threat is David.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed this. I enjoyed it more this time than when I originally watched it.
Me too. All right, so, Mr. Smith, do you feel that this film is worthy of being a quote-unquote prequel sequel?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is part of the whole thing. But I think Ridley Scott was very wise to do what he did and make a prequel that sets up what's to come.
Yes.
I think at that particular moment, that's what he was interested in. You know, Covenant is a bit more of an alien movie, isn't it?
Well, yes, but he realizes I just can't unleash the aliens without setting something up first. Like, I got to give you where they came from. They were a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, he's done that. So I think he did the right thing. Maybe one day I'll watch it and watch Prometheus. I didn't think to do it this time, actually. I just went through the box set as they were made.
Instead of doing it in order?
Maybe next time I'll do it in order and just see see how I feel about it then. Maybe I'll feel differently about the whole world of Alien after that. You know, because
who knows? Maybe in an upcoming season, maybe we just jump into the franchises like we do the old Michael Bay. We just go do this franchise and go through. Who knows? So I'm assuming that was a yes. So okay, we'll take that as a very valid yes. Yeah. I also agree that this was a very worthy addition. It was, I mean, beautifully shot, expertly acted, amazing special effects. Really, I mean, had a lot of tension in it. I really enjoyed the fuck out of this going back through it this time around. So yeah, I agree. Now, where would you rank this in the franchise?
I'll go top to bottom of the whole thing. I think that's the best way to do this.
Go right ahead.
So Alien is my favorite. Then I like Alien Resurrection.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like that take. I don't agree, but I like that take. I'm appreciative of this.
I like Alien Resurrection. Then I like Aliens. Then I like Prometheus. Then I like Romulus, then Covenant, then Alien 3.
Oh, okay. And I don't add the other ones in there, those fucking pieces of shit. Alien vs. Predator. However, on a side note, there's talk that Fede Alvarez and the director from Prey are discussing possibly redoing a new Alien vs. Predator.
I heard that too.
And if those two are going to do it, I'm fucking on board. I'm 3/4 erect right now as we speak. Sorry. So for me, I've got Aliens as my number 1. Number 2, Alien. I've got Prometheus right now 3. I haven't seen Alien Covenant again in a minute, so I want to watch that again. And that may flip. They may go 3, 4 depending. Then I've got Romulus, then Resurrection, and then Alien 3. However, all that being said, I probably need to go through and rewatch them again, and I may change my mind on that order. But as of right now, I haven't seen some of those films in a while. I may do what you do, but I may actually just go in order. I've seen Romulus, and I really enjoyed Romulus. I know we're not talking about it, but I really enjoyed Romulus. I was very appreciative of what Fede Alvarez did. I think he made a pretty good movie out of that thing.
Knows what he's doing.
All right, that brings us to our next fucking competitor. Up next, in the blue corner from 2014, we've got Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
It's time for the tale of the tape. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was released in 2014, written by Mark Bomback, Rick Jaffa, and Amanda Silver, based on The Planet of the Apes by Pierre Boulet, and directed by Matt Reeves, starring Andy Serkis, Jason Clarke, Gary Oldman, Kerry Russell, Cody Smith-McPhee, Kirk Acevedo, Toby Kebbell, Judy Greer, Nick Thurston, and Karen Cannavale. Made on a budget of $235 million and grossing $710.6 million at the box office. It holds a 7.6 rating on IMDb with a 91 critics and 88 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. On Letterboxd, Steve gives us 4 stars and Scott also gives it 4 stars. The fragile peace between ape and human is threatened as mistrust and betrayal threaten to plunge both tribes into a war for dominance over the earth. In 20th Century Fox's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
I know why you're scared. It took us 4 years fighting that virus, but we are survivors.
It was a virus created by scientists in a lab. You can't blame the apes.
Who the hell else am I gonna blame? We need to give him a chance. Welcome to Animals. Please. I've seen things. I've seen the way they are. They want what we want, to survive.
Caesar, home. This is your home. Your home.
Are you aware they are going to turn on you? They don't want a war.
No, don't shoot!
Caesar, you have to go. Go. Where?
Apes! Together! Strong!
War, it's not what you want. There must be another way.
right, it's now my turn to give you a little behind-the-scenes trivia. Now, this film, once again, we are taking place a little over a year and a half from now. This film takes place in 2026, so hold on to your asses, folks. We're about to get into ape territory. This was surprisingly shot in 91 days. That is some expert filmmaking from Mr. Vaughn to get this knocked out in 91 days.
Mr. Reeves.
Sorry, Reeves. Apologize, different guy. Mr. Reeves, sorry. The orangutan that is featured prominently in the film is named Maurice. This is a reference to Maurice Evans, who portrayed the orangutan Dr. Zaius in The Planet of the Apes from 1968 and Beneath the Planet of the Apes in 1970. The photographs of Dreyfus's children are actually those of Mr. Gary Oldman's children in real life, who also died of a monkey flu in real life. Just kidding, sorry. It's just... Wait, what? According to director Matt Reeves, the original draft of the screenplay, which was written before he was hired, was set further in the future with the apes having obtained the ability to speak almost flawlessly, and Caesar playing a much smaller role. Reeves thought it would be more interesting to explore Caesar's story at an earlier stage and asked permission to rewrite the script from scratch. His request was granted on the condition that he deliver the film in time for the scheduled release. Once again, a director fucking making the day, and finally a fucking studio stepping the fuck back and say, you know what, we got it. I mean, both these films we're talking about are the highest grossing ones in their franchise. So look, sometimes like some producers are out there listening to us or people, executives, but listen, if there are, stop putting your fucking fingers in the pie, motherfucker. You hired them to do a job, let them do the fucking job. If you're so good at doing it, then you fucking direct the film, you cocksucker. Anyway, despite having a cameo via videotape, James Franco had no involvement nor knowledge of his cameo. The video is stock footage from Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And in an interview, Franco stated, wait, I have a cameo? I didn't even know that. You know, I don't even think they asked my permission to do that. However, Franco later was too busy fighting off allegations of sexual misconduct with acting students to worry about this any further. The name Blue Eyes was given to Caesar's son because he is the first generation to be born without the chemical that changed the rest of the apes' eyes to green when they were in the laboratory. This is the first time in the franchise that shows the chimps as omnivores. They hunted a herd of elk in the beginning of the film and can be seen later in the film eating the elk. This is accurate since chimpanzees in reality hunt and eat other animals, some of which are deer-like animals. I did not fucking know that. And why any human being's trying to hold on to a chimp as a fucking pet? No wonder your faces are getting fucking ripped off, you stupid fucks. You deserve it. Viva la ape. Just kidding. Now, the sign language used by the apes is based on American Sign Language, but with a lot of unique expressions conceived by the apes themselves. Vocal speech was used sparingly, depending on the age of the ape and necessity of using it. For every scene with ape dialogue, the writers would consider how the characters would express themselves. So there would be a unique mix of body language, primal screens, sign language, and vocal speech for each individual ape. Karen Knavel, Maurice, wore 10-pound weights on each arm during sequences to sell the weight of her character in the performance capture. Holy fuck, that's pretty impressive. Look, for some people, if you're a film fan, if you're a cinephile, this is the shit that makes you go, that's fucking awesome. If you're not, fuck off. In the film, the violent, hate-filled ape Koba is a bonobo, formerly known as a pygmy chimpanzee, while the pacifist, forgiving ape Caesar is a chimpanzee, formerly known as a common chimpanzee. In real life, however, bonobos, probably saying that wrong, but bonobos, look, I don't know the ape family as well, all right? So if you know better, eat my ass. Bonobos are the much less violent of the two chimp species and rarely fight, whereas common chimps are much more prone to attack one another. Damn dirty fucking humans lying to us again. In another move by deceitful humans, the theater lobby poster shows a battle on and below the San Francisco Bay Bridge, yet this never happens in the finished film. Gary Oldman said in a 2014 interview that he doesn't like many of the films he's made or his acting in them, including critically acclaimed films, and admitted he has taken a lot of roles just for the money. But he said he decided to work in this film because he was a fan of the original movies and thought the script was very good. This is the first Planet of the Apes movie to have the F word spoken by Dreyfus toward the end. Other directors considered for the film include Jeff Nicholas, Guillermo del Toro, Juan Carlos Fresnaldo, J.A. Bayanin, and Jay Blakeson. Tom McCarthy of The Hollywood Reporter stated that the film manages to do at least three things exceptionally well that are hard enough to pull off individually. Maintain a simmering level of tension without let up for 2 hours, seriously improve on a very good first entry in the franchise, and produce a powerful humanistic statement using a significantly simian cast of characters. In the annals of sequels, Dawn is to The Rise of the Planet of the Apes what Empire Strikes Back was to Star Wars. It's that much better. We'll talk about that. I think it's a pretty fucking spot on quote. Drew McWeeny, I didn't make this name up, so don't be upset. But Drew McWeeny of HitFix, he decided to keep that last name. Drew McWeeny of HitFix awarded the film an A+ grade and said Dawn is not just a good genre movie or a good summer movie. It's a great science fiction film, full stop, and one of the year's very best movies so far. And Tiber of the Boston Globe wrote that in bearing, speech, and agonized expressiveness, Circus's Caesar conveys the conflicts of a king with almost Shakespearean grandeur. I'm going to take my hat off to Mr. Smith because I didn't think we were going to be able to jump off of Die Hard 2 and Lethal Weapon 2 and land on firm ground and have something, at least to us, maybe not to the listeners, but as exhilarating a showdown as we've had with these two films.
Yeah.
Prometheus and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I hadn't seen them in probably a decade each. And goddamn, they are so fucking good. Like, where did we fall off from some? I mean, I still feel like the independent scene is starting to come back. But where did we fall off sometimes with some of these grand 2-hour epics that are just, like, they just hold your attention from start to finish. Like, real expert filmmaking going on in the 2010s up to the 2020s. Like, I kind of am longing for those films to come back because we get a lot of movies coming on nowadays, and there's still some decent ones. But a lot of them are like, all right, we've got another one of these, another one of those, another superhero movie. And you just feel like, where are these movies that were being thrown at us by such expert filmmakers?
Well, again, people criticize franchise stuff. But look, you can get them right as well,
Yeah, well, with the right people too, yeah.
So, I mean, I actually, for some reason, I don't know what it was, I was a bit late to the party on this franchise because I liked the first one.
Yeah, the first one was a real surprise.
Yeah, I really liked the first one. And then I kind of, for some whatever reason, I was into another type of cinema at the time. I didn't watch the other two. And then I just took a chance and bought the set of the three. And Caesar is,
Andy Serkis, how did he not get nominated for an Academy Award? And maybe he did. I didn't see it in the thing.
But I think he got nominated for Gollum, didn't he? Or they
probably,
gave him
good in this.
They gave him some sort of tip of the hat. And we've sort of discussed this before where, actually, let's start fresh with Caesar and Guy Pearce, right?
Well, yep.
See what I'm saying? How you can make a fully rounded, sympathetic character like Caesar, and you can't even get the makeup effects right on a living actor, like a great actor like Guy Pearce, which for me, that really does stand out in Prometheus. That's really jarring. It really this is not done very well. The special effects in this movie are amazing. And I don't think there's anything more frightening than a fucking chimpanzee riding a horse firing 2 Uzis.
You're damn right.
That fucking freaked me out. Yeah, this movie is, you're absolutely, whoever said that was, this is The Empire Strikes Back to Star Wars. Takes things to a whole nother level. In the defense of the previous film, I'm not sure the director knew what he had.
How good he had. I mean, again, it feels like a Prometheus, the first one, because it sets up what we get in the latter two films of the trilogy. I know there's a new one out now. It doesn't have Caesar. I've discussed with you. I think it lacks a bit because there is no Caesar in this, and we've moved away from that originally trilogy, which I guess you have to. Yeah. I'm not certain that required another movie, but again, it still made good money. So I think, like what you said, like when I saw the first one, I thought, you know what? Because look, I'm of an age where Planet of the Apes is my parents' kind of thing, like Star Trek. Like that's why I'm a Star Wars fan and a fan of this. Star Trek and Planet of the Apes was a '60s, early '70s thing that I wasn't a part of.
No,
and I'd seen them, and they were cute and all that. And I get they are subject to the time frame they're in. So I don't begrudge them not looking like the modern day ones we've got. I get that they're people in outfits with makeup, and to be honest, pretty damn good makeup for the ape effects back then. They really did look good for back then. So when I went to see it, I said okay. And the first I was like, man, it really is fucking good. I'm like, fuck Charlton Heston. I actually like this one. And then when I saw there was a sequel, I thought I had that knee-jerk reaction, like, oh no, we're sequelizing this thing. Like, do we need one? It looked cool. I was like, you know what? Let's go see what happens to Caesar. And you watch and you're kind of like, holy fuck, like they actually stuck this fucking landing hard. Like no wobble, just bam, arms up, gold medal. And then they're like, oh, we're going to do a third. For me, I think the third might be better than the second. Like few franchises go from 1, 2, 3 up and get like better as they go. And that's why I feel a little let down in the fourth one is because obviously it's much further down the road and all those people are gone kind of thing. Because now it is the Planet of the Apes at this point. Like the humans are basically just, they're now the apes kind of thing. But man, this franchise just fucking kept elevating It's rare. That's a rarity. It's a rarity in anything that something like this can continue to be better and better as it goes.
Shout out Rupert Wyatt is the director of the first one, and and we've discussed this before. The world building in that first one, he did a very good job of, and sets the whole thing up. I mean, the ending on the Golden Gate Bridge is
spectacular.
When the animals are all they're all confined in that building and they escape. That is such a fist pumping moment, and then
we're rooting for the apes almost the entire time.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're the humans. We're rooting against ourselves.
And how they're treated. I mean, that brings up a lot of questions, really, ethics about stuff. And when they escape, that's an amazing fist pumping moment. And then to see the siege on the Golden Gate Bridge, it just gets bigger and better and more amazing. And like I say, old man Steve here is like looking at these special effects thinking, how do they do this stuff?
And this is 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, this is in Rise. So now we get,
battle scenes of apes, just full on the assault on San Francisco. Oh my God!
And this is what gets me, when they're being shot and blown up, and I'm horrified by it, and they're not even fucking real, and let's not forget the, you've got Gary Oldman.
They do a great job of not setting up as like he's the villainous human. He is trying to live in peace. He is trying to stay away from them. He is trying to keep his family, his people alive. He has he's not looking to fuck up with the apes. When they come a knocking, he then has to decide. He is now in survival mode. I've got to do what's best for me. I can't worry about the apes. I'm going to take them out if I have to now. They've decided to come on, knock on our doorstep. We've got to defend ourselves. And even in that sequence, like you said, apes are getting obliterated to start it. And you're like, oh my God, you feel bad. But then once they rush in and those people who aren't armed, they start charging you. Those filmmakers flip you.
Yeah.
You went from like, oh, these poor apes, like, oh my God, the humans. Like, what a dancing job they did there.
So you're conflicted. And I think Jason Clarke, who
he's a
great actor. He's underappreciated.
100% he is.
He plays Malcolm, and you can sort of, like you say, you're just very conflicted about, because this is a genocide that's taken place, and the power shifts, and you're a little bit like, well, I can see both sides of it, and because the humans are just trying to rebuild, but that will be. That is a
detrimental
direct conflict.
Yeah. Two sides of opposing forces against one another.
You've got like this fantasy, sci-fi, action movie. That's
a Shakespearean fucking play.
Yeah, that's daring to ask these really like philosophical, deep questions,
and you just think, oh, cool, it's gonna be a special monkey effect. And you're like, this is really pulling on me.
It's done in again, it's intelligent sci-fi. It's you do get your kind of action-y sequences but you get some absolutely heartbreaking moments as well. And and Tony Kebbell as Cobra is fucking horrifying.
He's so good. He's a great actor.
He is great.
The acting job from all the actors, whether they're the apes or not, but when they're the apes, I mean, how did Circus take an ape named Caesar and make him one of the 21st century's most recognizable and, in my opinion, pivotal heroine characters?
Such a noble.
If Shakespeare could have wrote something like this, Caesar would. He's his Hamlet. Like Reeves did an amazing job with this, and then the follow-up. To give credit, like you said, to the original director Wyatt, what Reeves was able to do, thanks to Wyatt's start, is it feels seamless. If I were to tell you Matt Reeves did all three, you'd be like, okay. If I told you that Wyatt did all three, you'd be like, no, I believe that. Unlike what the Star Wars sequels did, where they started with J.J. Abrams, went to someone else, and then went back to J.J. Abrams, and there's no consensus thread through that because fucking Kathleen Kennedy and the people at Star Wars and Disney didn't have a set structure from 1, 2, and 3. They don't have a set structure. It changes. And you can feel it in the movies why they feel so discombobulated. This did not have that problem. This was a seamless entry from 1 to 3, and it just was absolutely thrilling. And this one, there's just so much to love about this film. And what I loved about both films is I think Prometheus is just a little over 2 hours, like barely, like 3 minutes over 2 hours. So basically by the time the credits are done, you're under 2 hours for the main film. And this one's a little more than 2+ hours, but neither film felt laborious, like laborious. Like I didn't feel like, oh, this is going to take forever. We get on the horses early and we go. And
there's not a lot of filler.
No, they keep the pace. And even the filler, you're like, it's absolutely important to hear or see what's going on. So an absolute delight of a film.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the complexities. You've got the complexities of the characters, but you have got some incredible action sequences as well. And you have got the conflict of your own thing, and what would be you would side with the humans.
Yeah.
You just would, and the birth of Caesar's child and everything is so sort of warm and sort of real. That's the thing, really. I mean, it's a pretty kind of basic term, but it's just also real, and the film is long enough.
Yes.
But still, I was sort of like, I'm glad I've got another film after this.
Yes. And again, genius move. They talk, there's an army coming down, and you're like, well, when we get to it, good old Woody has showed up with his army. And I love that the characters, we don't have to keep bringing them in. We know that James Franco's character from the first has died because we make a stop at the old home. We realize that he probably has died from the simian flu. And then the Clark character, and then we don't get them back. They don't come back around. And I just like that we just keep moving forward in life in this thing. We don't always need to bring some people back. Much like what we do in Prometheus, we bring back the David character, but everyone else is gone by the time Covenant comes around. And they just keep moving on. Ripley's the only lasting character early, from some of the films.
Yeah.
But I think the smart part about that is they don't bring her back for these other ones. And much like this, we just keep moving forward. We just keep bringing back Caesar. We care about Caesar. And that is the mark of great filmmaking, that you actually care about a character that's not even human. Like, we're actually fully invested in Caesar's survival.
Yeah, I mean, with the simian flu and everything, and how the humans were lied to about it as well.
Yes, yeah.
So it's complex, and to get that in a film like this is unusual in itself. And I think that's why they, the test of time these are going to stand up.
I'm not being mean to anyone who's a fan of the originals, and I'm not talking about the Tim Burton one. Be a fan of the originals. If you like the originals, that's perfectly fine. If that's your nostalgia, by all means, that's fine. Just in my opinion, these films are far superior. And not technologically wise. I'm not talking, and look, obviously we know they're technologically far superior. I'm talking about story-wise. Like, the originals ones feel like we were supposed to be like, damn dirty apes. Like, we're supposed to be mad at humanity for blowing itself up, but still not liking the apes, and somehow feeling bad at white people, especially because there weren't any colored people in the films. I'm having a tough time feeling bad for Charlton Heston being fucking locked up in a cage. I'm just going to be honest with you. I have a tough time with, I give a fuck about Charlton Heston being locked up in a cage. This one, it's more complex. It's, like I said, more Shakespearean. Within a scene, you can shift your allegiance based on who's doing what to whom. These are so well made. These feel like these are the originals. To me, these are the ape stories, because these are just far better told.
Well, I think, the original is, very much of its time. And, I can appreciate, I mean, I like a lot of old films too. So, like you said, if you think the themes of the original, this is just more relevant for our time. But you've got to appreciate that the themes of the original are relevant for that time. But we're not of that time.
No.
That's all. So absolutely, and that will continue to happen, Yeah, there'll potentially be Planet of the Apes movies made in 60 years' time, and they will be talking about the themes of that time, So it's just, this is a unique experience, though,
All right, well, I know the answer here, but I'll ask you it anyways. Is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes a worthy sequel in the franchise?
Well, this almost transcends that into being just a unique film of its own. But yeah, like I say, Rupert Wyatt, he really set things up, did a lot of world building and all the themes that he sort of explores in that, and then still delivers a fantastic action movie in the process. And then this, it goes even higher.
Yeah.
To a place I didn't even think was possible, to be honest with you, because even watching it recently, I'm like, Caesar himself is such a fully realized, noble character that you'd like to think you could be as noble. So yeah, this is a mind-blowing experience and something I'm already keen to watch again.
I too agree. I mean, wouldn't it be something like, no, you know what? I don't think this is a good sequel.
Fuck this movie.
Fuck this movie. Fuck those apes, you cocksuckers. No, this is spectacular. I was almost upset with myself having not seen it in as long as I had. I was like, what's wrong with me? This is a fucking spectacular film. I loved going to see it in the theaters. I fucking loved it. This movie, because it was so good a sequel, when the third one was coming out, I was like, fantastic. And that brings me to this question. Where would you rank this in the franchise of the new Planet of the Apes? Now, there's 4 of them.
Well, I haven't seen Kingdom, so I'm just going to, of the 3, Of the three, this is my second favorite.
So we're going in reverse, right? So
Basically.
number one's the last one that came out. So it goes 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
And only because it's a real tip of the hat to the filmmakers and the studio that you got better with every one, which is what a sequel is what we were hoping for, right?
We're hoping for.
That's
That's the highest compliment you could really give.
Number one is 3, not because it's bad, but because it did such a great job starting off. It forced these other 2 to get better, and they just did. They just did. What you don't see.
War, Dawn, Rise for me.
I'm going to go out and just make a statement, and maybe we'll figure out later that I'm wrong, but I'm going to go, this may be the perfect franchise right now. The perfect franchise for each sequel got better than the one before it.
Not many films you can say that about.
So this may be one of the few franchises that we come across that 1 through 3 gets better as you go up the ladder. And that is...
Couldn't agree more.
That is a real testament to the people who did the Apes. So congratulations to those of you from here, the Cheeky Bastards, Men of Action. We dip our hats to you, fine sirs.
Yes.
And now it is time to sort through the debris and decide who the winner of our Creature feature sequel showdown is.
Let's go to the card.
And we start with Best Action Sequences.
Best Action Sequences.
This was difficult, but I think because we mentioned it, Prometheus is a really, it's kind of a sneaking around in the dark, we don't want to wake the beast kind of movie. And Dawn has a similar feel too. It's kind of like this, we don't really want to start a war. We don't really want to start a battle. But that Dawn attack, the attack the Apes do on San Francisco, to me, this is the winner. Like, didn't matter what was coming up. And I sat in Prometheus last night going, okay, this is the bar which they've got to top. And I couldn't remember everything. And there were some good moments. And I'm not taking away anything from Prometheus as far as not having any kind of fun stuff. But the Apes assault on San Francisco was just like, hey, we set it up at the fucking bridge, the first movie. Don't make us come across this bridge again, bitch. Man, when they come across the bridge with Kobo on the horse with the 2 fucking machine guns, forget about it. Mr. Smith, your feeling on Best Action Sequence.
I think with Prometheus, you've really got one main action sequence at the end.
Yep. It really does culminate in that big final
when they crash
piece.
into the other ship and this Roland and Charlize Theron and Noomi Rapace. It's just
and then the engineer comes out and he gets all
but
that
that's
stuff.
all over quite quickly. I mean, it's all good. That's all good stuff. But I think there's more going on in Dawn. And like I say, when you see the horrifying sight of a chimpanzee firing 2 Uzis at you while riding a horse, that in itself is amazing. And Cobra on the fucking tank is, quite frankly, worth the price of admission.
Even the missiles being fired at the Apes and then blowing up was kind of cool too. Like, I'm not gonna deny, I was like, whoa.
That's what I'm saying, but that's horrifying.
I know, but in spectacular fashion,
the spectacle is amazing.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, and 100% realistic.
And the stakes are so high.
Yeah. So for me, hands down, the best action sequences are in Dawn.
Best supporting characters.
Now, for best supporting characters, we may differ on this. I'm mesmerized in Dawn by Caesar, and there's a lot of good people with him. But for me, I thought the best overall cast, was Prometheus. There's so many good people having great moments between Charlize, Idris, Rapace, obviously fucking creepy-ass David. I was more drawn in by them. Also probably because it is a bit of a cat and mouse game being played throughout the movie, so I'm really invested more in their characters. Where I was really invested in Caesar. And I liked the supporting cast, but I was all about Caesar in Dawn. So for me, while both casts are, come on. The performances are fucking spectacular. Like, you're not going to be upset by either movie's performances. I, though, leaned towards Prometheus as I thought there was just a little bit more for some of the other side characters to do as opposed to in Dawn. Mr. Smith, your feelings?
I mean, you've got Gary Oldman. Caesar is just incredible. Cobra is frightening. Gary Oldman's not in it that much, but for me, you've got Idris Elba, Charlize Theron. I really like them. Logan Marshall Green.
Yeah, I almost forgot about him. Yeah, he's great.
But they do something clever with him, where they make him a bit of a wuss and a bit of a whiner, a bit of a bitch, which sort of gives Noomi Rapace's character a bit more, a
little strength to it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit of deliberately a weak character, is what I'm saying. He's not, he's a great actor. I've seen him in some really good stuff. But yeah, like you say, you got Guy Pearce as well.
Looking back at this cast, I was kind of like, holy fuck, they got all these people together in 12 years ago. It's like one of those moments you'd like look back at, like even like Ocean's 11, because some of the people in Ocean's 11 aren't as famous as they are post the movie. And you look back and you go, wait, we've got all these people in this film, and Noomi Rapace is the star.
Yeah,
right?
Michael
Michael
Fassbender.
Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender's incredible.
And he's probably coming off his role just a couple years earlier on Inglourious Basterds, where he kind of getting a little bit of a name now. Like he's starting to become a commodity.
You've also got Sean Harris from the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah, he's great. He's so good.
He apparently lives about 10 miles away from me. Let's get him on the show. If I bump into him and I'm getting a pint of milk, I'll...
Let me tell you right now, holy fucking shit. How's he not been on this show?
Get an actor you have, you can do fucking over here.
How's he not a special guest every other week? Come on, every other month.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, there's some good actors in Dawn, but I think, yeah, I'd have to give the cast trophy, supporting cast trophy, definitely has to go to Prometheus.
Funniest moments.
All right, so far we're lockstep. We might be hearing funniest moments. Again, look, I'll be honest, some of our movies we watch, not a lot of tee-heeing going on. But if there's some, I like the moments in Prometheus, the dick versus no dick contest that those two have a little bit. With Nomi's male counterpart there against David. For some reason, he's got a fucking wild hair up his ass for him. And some of David's comments and little things. And there are supposed to be more levity moments in that, where Dawn is pretty much fucking survival of the fittest, and there's not a lot of joking going on. I can't remember laughing at any of the moments. Like, I don't remember there being a joke. I mean, there might have been a joke. I think the only joke moment is when Koba comes in and pretends to be a circus monkey, and then ends up killing them. It's a moment of levity, but set up as a death. So I give it to Prometheus.
Yeah,
and again,
that's a no shit moment.
You're not going to be fucking grabbing your sides in either movie, but I think there's a few more tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic, intentional moments for levity in Prometheus, where Dawn is just pretty much, it's a white knuckle, asshole puckered tight ride, just, because you know it's all coming to a head. You have a feeling Koba's going to betray him. How's it going to turn out for everybody? And so, don't tell people you want to watch a comedy. How about Dawn? But in same respect, though, even though I say Prometheus is the funny one, you're not going to exactly be like, Eddie Murphy should have been Idris Elba's part. I'm saying he would have been more comedic. So it's just your choice.
Get the fuck out of here. I'll have to, I agree exactly with you there. I think with Dawn, any humor is very subtle. Because it's trying very hard to be taken seriously in the first place. So there's clearly concentrating on that. Prometheus is more, they're not exactly quips, but they're clever kind of. They're subtle in themselves too, but at least they're there.
And I think it's Scott trying to just break up the tension a little bit so that you get more tension coming on, because you can't hold. He goes more horror in that film. You can't hold on to it forever. The other movie's a survival movie, so we know the stakes are up. We know both are trying to survive in a world where they can't live together. And the other one is kind of like, we're not sure. David's, there are some funny moments, but
Dawn is
Schindler's List at this point. Yeah,
but Prometheus does have a few little winks here and there, something a bit of, like you say, a little bit of levity, because it is dealing with some heavy themes too.
Most original plot.
That moves us on to what we call more original plot, the better plot, whichever one we like best. You phrase it how you want it, folks at home. This is how we do it over here, right? Now, they're both based on property, so to say there's a more original plot, come on. If the first movies are the original plot, right? There's the originals. Prometheus is a searching the stars for our creators type movie. We've had a couple of those here and there. I'm gonna go with Dawn because, and it's tough. Like both of them have a real sense of like they have broken away from what the originals have been a bit. Like I said, I feel like Prometheus is his interpretation of Space Odyssey 2001, and I think he does an amazing job with it. However, I'm gonna pick Dawn on this one, probably because it sounds weird, but I was the most invested in the actions happening in Dawn. Where I was excited about what's going on in Prometheus, but I was really invested in like the survival of Caesar and the apes, but also wanting the humans to somehow coexist. Like I was like, can't we just all get along? You know what I mean? So I was a little more invested in Dawn, but I don't want it to sound like I'm slighting how I feel really, especially another time around. Prometheus really had a real fresh take, and he didn't just go, aliens again. He was just kind of like, hey, we'll get you your fucking alien. You fucking hold your horses. I'm the guy who stewarded this thing into the fucking, I put you through your chest the first time. You fucking hold your fucking horses, you cocksuckers. He was trying to do what they did with the original Dawn, with the original Rise. He was like, look, we're going to world build here. You're going to find out why we get this. We just can't run into a planet and it's just aliens fucking everything. We just slow it down. We're going to get there. That said, I did find myself more invested in the actions and things going on in Dawn, so I'm going to pick Dawn. Mr. Smith.
I'm going to go with, I didn't really know how I was going to feel about this one, but I think I'm going to go with Prometheus.
Oh, okay. All right, I like that.
Because it'd been a long while, like with you, it'd been a long while since I'd seen it. Just the whole, like, the reason for going to that planet light years away, because the figuration of the planets that had been shown in various stages of humanity and all that. I don't know if I just didn't care about it originally, or I didn't really pick up on it as much, or I just kind of wasn't paying attention. It could have been a dozen other things. I think I understood what was going on in Prometheus more this time than last time, is what I'll say. Fair. However, it lines up with what's to come after that with Alien. It's debatable. I think what Ridley Scott did, which is, what we've got to remember is Alien is a haunted house slasher in space. So to go from that to this, he's clearly, really going all out on elevating things. Dawn, not to belittle Dawn though, because it's telling a very frightening, kind of almost, dare I say, real, or it's making something so strange seem possible, maybe, in Dawn. It's like, well, this all, the apes talking and all this stuff and taking over the planet it doesn't seem ridiculous in Dawn.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
So I'll give Dawn that, but in the, it's literally by a hair, really, that I think for me, Prometheus is just that little bit more satisfying in its kind of themes and ideas. And they're huge and, philosophical. I'm going to go for Prometheus on that.
Best action hero.
Now, best action star. This is one of the first times where it's kind of like, we don't really necessarily have an action star, so to speak. But I have to pick Dawn because I think it's Caesar. I think Caesar's the person we follow. And the person we really follow in Prometheus is either Rapace's character, she's a scientist, and while she has some cool things, she's not Ripley, so she's not trying to be Ripley, or David, and David's the bad guy. Like, it's not the aliens. David's he's Hal come to life. David's the bad guy, so he's not doing anything actually. He's fucking very, very fucking, he is Brutus times 12. This motherfucker is a fucking cocksucker, stab you in the back while shaking your fucking hand, all right? Idris Elba looked like he could have been the action star. And if he had a bigger name at the time, he might have been. Or even Charlize Theron could have been as well. But they didn't go that angle. They really did. Like I said, this is a more the phone calls coming from inside that house type of horror movie where, like, the real threat is the real threat is already on your ship. You just didn't realize it. The real threat was you brought with you. Where you went, you ended up realizing, oh God, this is a nightmare. But the real person you got to be watching out for is already with you. So because of that, I have to give it to Dawn, because Caesar, we're riding with Caesar. He gets shot, he returns, he changes things. Caesar's our hero. Or even if you like Koba. I mean, Koba could technically also take the reins because he is the one who, kind of says Caesar's being a little soft, tries to take him out, and then rides in and takes on the fucking human. So at least for me, one of those two has got to be the star, and that's from Dawn.
I agree. Caesar is he's an incredible character, first and foremost. Fully realized, complex, and with the heroic stuff. I mean, because, Koba is a maniac. He is a warlord, fucking gun-toting, cigar-chewing, maniac. So, like, I just think Caesar, he gets his hands dirty in the actiony way that we're talking about. Whereas in Prometheus, you've got Charlize Theron and Noomi Rapace. But at the end, they're the kind of. I mean, Idris Elba does the most. Well, on one hand,
yeah, I guess he kind of is the most heroic thing. Yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, Noomi Rapace's, as a scientist, is seeing the implications of what's really going on. So she does what she does, and Charlize Theron's in the same. They're sort of both in the same situation. Like, Charlize Theron's not really a villain, is she? Because she's like, we need to get this spaceship out of here before, and we can't take this infection back to Earth.
Yeah, she's one of the few who actually like has their wits about them.
Yeah, she's got a level head about it. But Noomi Rapace is that times 10 because of being a scientist. But they're on the run. They're just trying to outrun, whereas
everything.
whereas Caesar will run in and get his hands dirty. So I'm with you.
He's the reluctant hero. If he has to, he will.
Yeah, so I'll go with you on that. I think Caesar.
The better movie.
Now, for better movie, once again, I think both of these films are worth the watch. They really are. But because of what we have said about Dawn, calling it one of the best sequels ever, holding it in high regard up to Empire Strikes Back, I have to pick Dawn based just on that. Based on the fact that while Prometheus, on this last watch around, it really made me enjoy it far more than I remember enjoying it the first time. And I think some of that might be we went in with, once again, oh, it's an alien movie, so we're going to get aliens. And we went in with expectations, which is our fault, not the film's fault, as you've said. And so that's on me going in this. This time around, I didn't have expectations because I already knew what I was getting into. And I wanted to watch it from, okay, how's he telling this new story, this beginning of his franchise? And I fucking loved it. I think I liked it more like we did when we reprised Dune. We were like, you know what, I don't know if I liked it as much. And we went back and watched, like, God damn, actually, I really enjoyed the shit out of that fucking film the second time around. I felt the same way about Prometheus. But for me, the better movie is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It elevates the first. It just is one of those films that you can't believe is as good as it fucking is. And it invested the entire fucking time. And I fucking loved it. I mean, and also maybe because the characters continue on that one character. So it is like Ripley. You're kind of like, fuck, what's Caesar going to do next time? Oh, they got an army coming for him? And you're like, oh, let's keep going. So I picked Dawn. Sir, what is your choice?
It's Dawn. Dawn is one of the best sequels ever made. Prometheus isn't, I don't think.
Fair. That's a very fair statement.
Yeah. See, Prometheus is a good movie. Dawn is one of the best sequels of all time, and we're talking about sequels. So
yes,
that's just the way it fucking is.
That's a mic drop from Mr. Smith.
Yeah,
moving on.
Fuck yourself,
oh, why don't you eat a nut?
Hey, your mother's an animal.
Your mother's a monkey. You fuck.
Prometheus was better than I remembered it. I felt I understood it more and all that, but I actually feel I could live without it. When watching the Alien franchise, I feel like you don't need... I mean, because really, if you think about Alien 3 to Resurrection, you need Alien 3, I guess. Because they use her DNA
to create this sexier,
right?
weirder version of her.
Yeah, so that's necessary, but nothing is really that necessary. We never asked those questions before. So I'll give it that. Them sequels in Alien are necessary. Prometheus isn't really, but I appreciate the thought and, ideas of Prometheus. But Dawn, you just want to know, like, at first you're sort of thinking, wow, we're still with Caesar. He's grown. He's become more intelligent, and he's brought everyone along with him, So after you want to know what's next after Dawn as well. And it's an incredible action movie. It's a milestone in special effects, which is not really something I particularly care about a lot of the time. But it really is jaw-dropping and did make me think, man, I think special effects have evolved since the Apes movies, quite frankly. I've seen some pretty poor stuff done on much bigger films with more money, So I think it has to be Dawn, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes for me.
And the winner is... Steve scores this showdown a draw at 3-3, while Scott scores at 4-2 in favor of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And the winner by split decision is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
So there you have it, another sequel showdown in the books. And sadly, that means that it is time for Steve and I to induct our final two films into our top 100 films of all time.
The Cheeky Bastards Top 100 Films of All Time.
And I have the pleasure of closing out with number 99. Steve is going to bookend. He was the first in, and he'll be the last out the door for this. But some of you have probably wondered, how come the movie I'm about to announce has not been put in yet? Well, because I waited specifically for this moment, because it'll be its 30th anniversary a couple days after this episode drops. My final selection into the top 100 films of all time is from 1994, Pulp Fiction. Directed by Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction is not just a film, it's a cinematic event that redefined the landscape of 1990 cinema. This neo-noir masterpiece remains a cultural touchstone, influencing countless filmmakers and captivating audiences with its non-linear narrative, sharp dialogue, and unforgettable characters. From the opening scene, Pulp Fiction grabs you by the fucking throat and never lets go. Tarantino's decision to play with time, bouncing between different plot lines and characters, created a sense of unpredictability that kept viewers on edge. The film's ensemble cast delivers some of the most iconic performances in modern cinema. John Travolta's portrayal of Vincent Vega revitalized his career, showcasing his ability to blend charm with a menacing edge. Samuel L. Jackson as Jules Winfield delivered one of the most memorable monologues in film history, his intensity searing the screen. And Uma Thurman as the enigmatic Mia Wallace brings a sultry, cool demeanor that perfectly complements the film's aesthetic. Each actor brings something unique to their role, creating a dynamic chemistry that drives the film. Tarantino's award-winning script is razor-sharp, filled with witty banter and philosophical musing on topics as diverse as fast food, foot massages, and divine intervention. The dialogue is both hyper-stylized and deeply authentic, capturing the essence of each character while adding layers of depth to the narrative. Quentin revels in the lurid sensational aspects of the genre while elevating it with his sophisticated storytelling. Pulp's soundtrack is another standout element, featuring an eclectic mix of surf rock, soul, and pop that perfectly complements the film's tone. Tracks like Miserlou by Dick Dale and Girl You'll Be a Woman Soon by Urge Overkill are now inextricably linked with this film, enhancing the overall experience and cementing Pulp Fiction's status as a pop culture phenomenon. Ultimately, Pulp Fiction is a film about choices and consequences, fate and chance. It's a meditation on the randomness of life where seemingly insignificant actions can have profound ripple effects. The characters are all flawed, often making morally ambiguous decisions, but Tarantino treats them with a sense of humanity that makes them relatable, if not always likable. In the 30 years since its release, Pulp Fiction has lost none of its power. It remains a daring, original work that continues to inspire debate, analysis, and admiration. Tarantino's bold vision, combined with outstanding performances and a killer soundtrack, make Pulp Fiction a film that is not just watched, but experienced. It's a testament to the power of cinema and a reminder that sometimes the best stories are the ones that break all the rules, and it now takes its rightful place as my final entry into our top 100 films of all time. Mr. Smith, close out this 2-year journey from 1 to 100 with number 100.
Well, much like yourself, I saved my best. I started off with my best, and I'm ending with, for me, the most influential in my love of cinema. So from 1983, directed by Brian De Palma, we have Scarface. After getting a green card in exchange for assassinating a Cuban government official, Tony Montana stakes a claim on the drug trade in Miami. Viciously murdering anyone who stands in his way, Tony eventually becomes the biggest drug lord in the state, controlling nearly all the cocaine that comes through the West Coast. However, increased pressure from the police, wars with the Colombian cartels, and his own drug rage paranoia serve to fuel the flames of his eventual downfall. It was actually Al Pacino who initially started development on Scarface after seeing the 1932 original, with Sidney Lumet being chosen as director. Now, Lumet had the idea to set the film in modern-day Miami, but eventually left the project due to creative differences with the production team. The screenplay, of course, was written by Oliver Stone, who researched the script while battling his own cocaine addiction. Stone moved to Paris to write the script, believing he could not break his addiction while in the United States, stating in a 2003 interview that he was completely off drugs at the time because I don't think cocaine helps writing. It's very destructive to the brain cells. Directing duties eventually went to Brian De Palma, who said, basically, I like the script by Oliver Stone. Oliver came up with such an inventive idea of placing it in the Cuban community with all these Cuban immigrants, creating this huge drug trade in Florida, and I thought, now this is a canvas I can work with. I hadn't had much direct experience with the community, and Oliver took me away and introduced me to everybody, and I said, this can be a grand opera. So to wrap things up, Roger Ebert gave Scarface 4 stars out of 4 in 1983 reviews, and he later added it to his greatest movies list. Ebert wrote, De Palma and his writer Oliver Stone have created a gallery of specific individuals And one of the fascinations of the movie is that we aren't watching crime movie cliches. We're watching people who are criminals. And finally, halfway through the premiere screening, Martin Scorsese turned to actor Stephen Bauer and said, "You guys are great, but be prepared because they're going to hate you in Hollywood, because this film is about them." I fell in love with movies at the age of 7, being allowed to stay up late to watch old black and white monster movies. That led me to being entranced by films like Rocky, Superman, James Bond, and Star Wars. My love of cult movies and exploitation flicks soon followed. Then in 1986, I saw Scarface, and it changed my life. It was the icing on the cake, it sealed the deal, and made me the cineast for life. So here we are. Scarface is the final film that I induct into the Cheeky Bastards' top 100 films of all time.
And those top 100, in the order we put them in: Once Upon a Time in the West, Predator, Reservoir Dogs, Enter the Dragon, Mandy, Zodiac, Blade, Logan, 48 Hours, The Usual Suspects, Die Hard, Apocalypto, Children of Men, Bullet, An American Werewolf in London, Old Boy, Get Carter, Brooklyn's Finest, True Romance, The Elephant Man, Skyfall, 3:10 to Yuma, Assault on Precinct 13, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Midnight Run, The Departed, Guardians of the Galaxy, Where Eagles Dare, The Incredibles, Hard Boiled, White Men Can't Jump, The Empire Strikes Back, Gross Point Blank, Aliens, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Brotherhood of the Wolf, Taxi Driver, Ed Wood, Do the Right Thing, Full Metal Jacket, The Matrix, Apocalypse Now, A Clockwork Orange, Angel Heart, Escape from New York, Paradise Alley, Cannibal Holocaust, Inglourious Basterds, Les Samurai, Saving Private Ryan. 7. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Man on Fire, The Manchurian Candidate, Moon, Whiplash, Repo Man, Donnie Darko, No Country for Old Men, From Dusk Till Dawn, Fargo, LA Confidential, Dread, Edge of Tomorrow, Kong Skull Island, Inception, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, Rafifi, Goodfellas, 13 Assassins, First Blood, The Hateful Eight, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Thing, American Psycho, The Wild Bunch, Drive, Rio Bravo, The Road Warrior, Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, The Killer, Dead Man, Watchmen, The Driver, Unbreakable, The Setup, Hellboy, Hereditary, Carlito's Way, The Shining. And our last 10: Brawl in Cell Block 99, Dragged Across Concrete, Fight Club, Zombie Flesh Eaters, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Sicario, Last Night in Soho, Sin City, Pulp Fiction, and Scarface. There's the 100 top films of all time from the Cheeky Bastards. Our 2-year journey has finally been complete, and we're about to start a new one starting next month, as we are going to induct into a brand new different type of Hall of Fame, the top 100 underrated films of all time. So we hope you'll join us again next month for our next showdown, as well as the start of our first 4 inductees into a brand new Hall of Fame, those being what we believe are some of the top films that don't get enough play or aren't talked about enough, our top 100 underappreciated films of all time.
That will do it for another action-packed movie showdown. Now you can join in on the debate and let us know who you had as the winner of this month's head-to-head cinematic battle by following the show on all its socials. Those links can be found in our show notes. And be sure to join us again in 2 weeks for our latest episode of Dropping a Bruise, available, just like this podcast, exclusively on the last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network, where you can find other amazing shows dedicated to such iconic action stars as Stallone, Lundgren, Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, and Seagal. The link to the network can also be found in the show's notes. We hope you'll drop in again next month as we pit 2 Stallone action movie sequels against one another, as 1985's Rambo First Blood Part 2 squares off against 2012's The Expendables 2 for sequel supremacy. So until then, stay explosive, my friends.
This has been a Man with an Exceptional Beard production.